Hey, how y'all doing? Welcome to another Squirrel, maybe. Might be one of those moments where I think I have something to talk about, and then when I start talking, I wind up having nothing to talk about. But I guess I'll start with the title. Decided to call this one Where's the Magic? Because much like every day, today, usual fucking run-of-the-mill life, from my perspective, seems magic's kind of gone out of it. I'm not a young fellow. I'm not an old man by any stretch, but I'm not a young fellow. Doesn't matter how old I am exactly. I don't really care. People know, but as an example, I've been an avid, perhaps overly obsessive, maybe, gamer for 36 years. And obviously I still love it. The thing is, not the only thing I love. You know, I love reading all kinds of different types of books. I love movies, good television, documentaries, YouTube. I was a volunteer firefighter for 5 years. I was in the military for 3 or 4. I was a truck driver for 10. I've been skydiving. I've been rock crawling. I've been rock crawling. I've been rock climbing. I've gone rappelling. I've gone, a mild version of whitewater rafting. Here we do tidal bore rafting because we have the highest tides in the world. And some places when they come in, they go up rivers. And when the river going down and the tide coming up intermingle, they make a moving set of rapids that travels up the river. And you can do whitewater rapid stuff on it or surf on it if you're in the mood. Anyway. So, I'm not trying to brag. I've been kind of blessed in the fact that I've been able to have that much variety in my life, even though I've never in my life had any money, really. I've never cracked the 50 grand a year mark, Currently, I'm hovering just below the 30 grand a year mark, Canadian, which isn't worth that much. I can't complain too much, though, because living in Canada is pretty cool. For starters, weed's legal, which is, about fucking time. It's kind of funny. This is off topic, but it's kind of funny. All of our cigarette packages now are brown. They're not allowed to have flavors or anything on the package or anything that might be enticing to young people. Weed is sold in plain white or black packaging, with no brand marking on it, no cool labels, no advertising like that. Because they don't want the kids getting into it. But booze, you go in the liquor store, man, it's a cornucopia of fucking clowns and birds and cute little animals and funny little names and posters all over the place. And so there's still that level of hypocrisy. But I'm not even sure where the hell. See, I got squirreled by a fucking weed squirrel. Anyway, so where's the magic gone? Well, let me carry on with my explanation of the fact that I'm an old man and I've been playing for a long fucking time. And why I prefer video gaming over things like books and movies, even though I do love those things. And the reason is because as I grow older and as I have gotten used to the systems involved in games, and as my taste and ability to spot those systems has increased, generally speaking, those systems themselves have advanced to the point where they would become invisible again. Now, what do I mean by that? You look at something like fucking Mario Brothers, the original one, 8-bit Nintendo. It had very obvious systems. You run from left to right. There is no third dimension. You go up, down, and forwards, and you jump on things. That's it. And for a long time, the majority of, games that were popular on consoles were exactly that. You really didn't need an instruction manual. The odd time it might throw in something different, you would. But for the most part, don't fall down the hole, jump on the enemies, don't touch the enemies. And for a while, at least when the Nintendo came out, it was a huge leap visually from Atari and Pong. So it held your attention visually. You're just like, oh, I want to get to the next level because I just want to know what it looks like. I just want to see how cool it is. You know, I just want to see how neat they made the explosions to look in this game, etc., etc. And that's still a thing. You know, improvements in graphics is still, a game seller. People don't bring a game out and go, hey, look how shitty my game is. How crappy it looks. No, usually if it's, especially AAA game, it's one of the top points. How great it looks. It doesn't make or break a game, I think most people will agree with me in that respect. It doesn't have to be an amazing looking game to be an amazing game. I'll throw out the very stereotypical example of Journey. There's not even really conflict or combat in that game, and it's still a great game. It's a good experience. It takes you out of the world and lets you do something that you can't in the real world. I'm going to catch my breath for a sec, do an edit break so that it doesn't catch me in the middle of a sentence,
Is a bunch of rocks.
Thanks. I may have left my point on the rocks, so, yeah. But the point was, it was simple systems. But now I'm a grown-ass man. I've done things that required complex knowledge. Learned new things, I learned how to play Kerbal Space Program recently, so... And if you've ever tried to play that on console and figure out what the fuck all the buttons do, and even just make it through the tutorial, because the interface was geared very heavily, definitely, obviously, towards PC. But that's beside the point. I got Kerbled instead of Squirreled. I don't want to help this guy. I don't know why he came here. I thought it was somewhere else. Shut up. So, but even in modern games, it's getting to the point now where instead of being immersed in the game, instead of... Shut up. Instead of, losing myself in the experience, I'm just working the systems. I'm at a fork in the road. Literally, figuratively. I don't know which thing to talk about next, because they all kind of come around back to the point again. Next gen's about to come out. They're too loud. I'm going to go this way. Next gen's going to come out soon. PS5, Xbox, whatever. Xbox 0.5, if they're going to go with the backwards naming thing. And I'm just not excited. I'm going to get one when I can afford one. Because I'm hoping for advancements in complexity. I'm hoping for the systems to go deeper so that I can get immersed again like I used to. I still can sometimes. But nowadays it seems to only be in games like this, like Skyrim, like the open world games where I'm not being directed one direction or another. Because I can just go off and live in the world. Games like Red Dead Redemption 2, the online part, GTA 5. I can pick what I do, go for a drive, do my thing. It doesn't matter what the story is. It doesn't necessarily even matter that I'm doing anything, because in games like Red Dead Redemption and GTA 5, just the world itself has enough layered systems that I can get lost in it. I can go for a stroll in Red Dead Redemption 2 or a drive in GTA 5, and I might see a random car accident. I might get jumped by wolves. A thunderstorm might start, and I might just stop on the side of the road or on the mountainside trail I'm on and watch the weather roll in because it's nice. So lately I find myself drawn to those kinds of things, but lately, because the majority of the games that are advertised to us that pop up on YouTube, home feeds and stuff, it's now all controlled by corporations and algorithms. I'm inundated by adverts and the commercials for Call of Duty, whatever the fuck is out now. Stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I've played a good 70% of the Call of Duty games out there. Because I like me some shooty bang bang, But I don't play those games a lot because I'm too fucking old for constant action like that, right? And to be honest, the repetitive loop of going over the same little piece of map 100 times in 10 minutes, Because of something like Call of Duty, you're alive, you're dead, you're alive, you're dead, you're alive, you're dead. If you're decent, you live for the 5-minute match. But still, you're running over the same piece of ground over and over again for the 5 minutes, and then the next match, it's the same thing, and then the next match, it's the same thing. So I get tired of those games real fast. I get tired of running in circles. Sometimes I just want to head off in a direction and see what happens. But again, now that these types of games, the Skyrim formula, you know, the Bethesda formula, Skyrim, Fallout, whatever, it's all the same formula with a different coat of paint. The Ubisoft formula, you know. Nowadays, when I want a specific type of gameplay, I just pick a company, and I know, okay, that company makes that type of gameplay, that company makes that type of gameplay. I mean, specialization's fine. Some of these people are really good at those kinds of experiences. You know, or they used to be. You know. I still really enjoy playing Fallout 4. I could give two diddly shits about the story. For me, the story ruined the experience of the Fallout games. You know. But that's just me. That has nothing really to do with what I was trying to say. I play games like, you know, Mud Runner and Kerbal Space Program and Sims because maybe the depth in their physics systems or in the complexity of the machines you operate is high enough to be interesting and to keep me engaged. It's just cool watching the bits move, you know? A game like this, you know, there's not, but anyway, I don't want to go over the same ground making the same point over and over again. I'm trying to get to a point, not get lost in it, right? But even in these games now, you can see the systems. The Ubisoft games, it's super simple. It was, you know, it had become a meme, the systems. Climb the tower, you know, collect the things. Go to the giant map icon vomit screen and just do busy work, you know, and it was the same thing in all of them. You know, with this, it's kind of the same formula, but thankfully it's not in your face enough. I mean, God knows I've got enough map markers down there, but I can turn that off and just see what happens. And generally speaking, that's what I do. The only thing I use the compass on the bottom of the screen for is to tell which direction I'm going if the sun isn't out or I don't know what time it is. And to present to me things I might not notice, like that icon in the middle now, a door with a thing on it. That could be maybe like a door in the side of a hill. It's in a cave, and I might walk right past it. So I might use the compass as a, oh, hey, what's that over there thing? But I generally turn off all of the icons that are marked, that are like, oh, go here because you have to. I like finding that shit out on my own. Again, I'm getting lost in just babbling, because... yeah, I live alone. All my friends are busy having kids. I got nobody to fuck talk to half the time, so I talk to myself. Anyway, I'm going to do another edit break, take a deep breath, see if I can remember my point and get to it before you all fall asleep and stop giving a shit. There's a lot of fake depth systems that have been added to stuff. Pointless crafting systems, pointless upgrade systems, pointless RPG skill trees. That don't really do much but give you another mark to tick off a list somewhere. That's not the kind of systems I want to see added. I don't want more map markers. I don't want more busy work. You know, it's like nowadays, you know, partly because of the limitations in hardware, you get games where, like Mud Runner, amazing vehicle physics, awesome mud physics. For me, it's fun just to try and make it through a mud puddle and up a rocky trail with a load of logs on. Because the physics of vehicles and the terrain you're driving on is more detailed than anything. You know, GTA 5 doesn't really have mud. It doesn't really have dirt. It doesn't stick to your tires and change the traction, you know. But Mud Runner's slow as fuck because that's all it does. You can't go driving off in a long direction or go rock crawling up a really nasty trail because it's not made for that. Maybe the second one will be. I'm hoping it will be. And part of the reason for that obviously is, you know, if you're playing on it with limited heart computational ability, and you're a peasant console gamer like I am, then your computer can, hey, yeah, make your trucks look really cool, but it can't also put in dynamic weather systems. Random encounters with people. You can't also get out of your vehicle and start shooting and turn it into a first-person shooter experience. But I would like to see us get to that point where, you know, I can be driving my super highly detailed and very realistically physicified, you know, realized car or truck or spaceship or whatever, where I have to worry about fuel and entering atmospheres at the right angle so I don't burn up. But also I know when I land, I might get out of my ship in my badass mechanical robot suit and shoot some aliens in the face with lots of pretty explosions. You know, oh, and then remember to eat and stay out of the lava and turn the heater on in my suit because it's also got survival mechanics in it. Not because it's, you know, a check mark on a box, but because it would make it more real. You know, I don't want a survival game where I have to, you know, eat every 5 minutes or my guy will keel over dead. You can survive 2-3 days without eating and be fine and have a big ol' ass meal, and then you're good for another 2-3 days as long as you drink something every day, right? I don't mind playing games over those kinds of time scales. I enjoy games like there's a RPG game called Outward that operates on those kinds of time scales. If you want to go somewhere, you have to walk. There's no fast travel. You get caught out at night in the winter, you could freeze to death unless you make a fire. You need to sleep or your character will go keel over dead at some point. And those systems make the game more engaging, which is good, because to be frank, it's a pretty ugly game and the combat is clunky as fuck. But it does a lot of things right. Doesn't do all of them. Neither does this. I would love more detailed systems for survival and stuff like that in the world like this. You know, they exist in Red Dead 2, but they're meaningless, really. I want the magic back, you know. I don't want to play systems. I play games like this, like I'm not ducking, I'm not worried that those things will see me because I know they have an exact detection range. You know, I have to get by that telephone pole, they'll see me. Matter of 1 foot, right? Well, I've played games that were way more realistic, where if you're thinking to yourself, realistically, if I was standing there looking out into the woods, I would see me and be shooting at me. Some games do that, or at least simulate it by having really, really big detection distances on their enemies, and that work on line of sight, for example, rather than proximity. But again, they're still detectable. You can work around them. I know, for example, that because of the systems in this game, if I just crouch for 3 seconds, doesn't matter what I'm fighting, you know, depending on the situation, it's just a matter of time. Give it a few moments, it'll forget I exist. It won't keep looking for me. The bad guys don't investigate somebody who's died right next to them if they don't hear it happen. This game doesn't have that kind of depth in that system. So I guess the long and the short of it is I'd love to see something that combines all those systems. What's my dream RPG, for example? Using that kind of logic and the idea of increased ability in our machines to reproduce such things. Imagine a Soulsborne Sekiro mixture, let's say, for an RPG. You play third person. You can play Shinobi class, in which case the game would play more like Sekiro. You could play, you know, one of the Dark Souls categories. Mage, Sword and Shield Knight, whatever, Thief. You could play a Hunter class and be one of the Bloodborne type characters. And then you do it in a truly open world. Something like this, but, you know, Dark Souls pretty, with that intelligence of level design that they've been able to put in many of their games, most of them, the majority of them. You know, I could say a thing or two about Dark Souls 2, but that also happens to be one of my favorite Dark Souls games. But only because the jankiness of it and the sort of broken and disconnected world that they made for it, because, you know, it was like built by committee, from what I gather, sort of worked into the lore of that particular game, but I'm pretty sure that was only by accident. Fuck, I lost my point. I got Dark Souls Squirrel. Right. So this perfect RPG might contain the elements of that Outward game I was talking about, with a little bit of survival and stuff, and it just enough to matter, not enough to be annoying. You would have the variety of excellent combat in all of the FromSoft games that I mentioned, Sekiro, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls series. Dark Souls 3 particularly, it was the most polished combat system, if not perhaps the most challenging. But you throw all those things in an open world with dynamic weather systems and random things and monsters that, instead of being in the same place or the same general vicinity all the time and forgetting about you entirely the moment you go around a corner and sit because you have high stealth or whatever. Because that's just numbers. That's a system. It's a system you can exploit. So I want games to get at least to the point where they can hide the systems. Every game doesn't have to be an everything game. You know, there can be directed, specific, more linear, more focused experiences that also still hide those systems. You know, one of the systems that was hidden for a long time that was great about the advent of the newer technology and you know, machines that could read the information from wherever it was stored quickly enough that you could have games like Red Dead Redemption 2 where there's no load screens, or The Witcher 3 where, well, fast travel, there's a load screen, but for the most part, if you don't want it to, there's no load screens in those games. You can walk past a building, look inside the window, and shoot through the window if you want, or at least, you know, what you see going on in that building is what's going on in the building, because you don't have to go through a load screen every time you go through a door. Because that pulls you out. That tells your brain, hey, you're not really in this world. This isn't really happening. And you're like, oh yeah, right. It's the same thing as being in a really great movie and you're right into it. You're like, oh fuck yeah, this is awesome. And then commercial break. Oh. Well, even younger people might not remember the pain of commercial breaks. But you know what? The first time I saw Star Wars, like the first Star Wars that came out, Episode 4, A New Hope, they cut to commercial right before the "No, I am your father" fucking scene. All right, right before that, he chopped off Luke's hand. Commercial break. Hey, you want to wipe your ass? Use our toilet paper. What? Fuck you. Bring me back to the movie. And games do that with loading screens. They have to. It's a technological limitation. But anyway, like I said, they became able to hide it. So the first time I played Uncharted or the newer Tomb Raider game, I was like, oh, hey, it's neat. I'm actually seeing my character crawl through all these cracks. Or when I played the first Red Dead, I was like, oh, it's cool that their characters are having a conversation while we're riding a horse. This is neat. You know, it was new. I wanted to listen to it just because it had never been done. Good voice acting wasn't really a consistent thing in video games, even only that far back. I'm going to do another edit break. So, you know, they found ways around it. But then after a while, all the games started doing it, and I started to see it. It started to become an obvious mechanic. Oh, I'm suddenly forced to walk at walking speed instead of being able to run down this hallway for some reason because my character wants to have a stupid conversation. Oh, right. It's a load screen. They just hit it. And so now it's obvious, right? For some things it's fine. You know, the rest of it's good enough, and it doesn't break you out of the immersion. So I'm not complaining about that technology, but I'm using it as an example to point out how sometimes once a system becomes ubiquitous, it starts to become obvious. And I would like games to get to the point where the systems aren't ubiquitous. I mean, real life is full of systems. If your heart stops and your circulatory system can't get the blood to the rest of your body for those, you know, programmed instructions to occur, DNA is programming, and your body does, and your cells act according to your DNA and their environment and the stimuli that they're presented with. Just like the programming in a video game. They react to stimuli, even though they might not actually be intelligent. We don't notice the systems in life so much because, well, that's the only thing we've ever known as far as quote-unquote reality. So there's that. But usually we're just too busy trying to live life. I'm not sure that was a point. I am trying to get to one. But much like right now, I was sort of rambling and I don't really know where the fuck I'm at. going to do it. I'm going to have to do it. I got to go back and find my point. It will come back to me. Right. Apparently I dropped it here. There are systems in real life. And I would be happy to see the types of games I enjoy playing a lot. Sims, open world type games with sim aspects. Approach those levels of systems. Not because there's an icon on your screen telling you something. You know. But just because it makes the world more believable. I don't want a gauge in the corner of the screen telling me exactly how cold I am, and when it turns all the way this other color, I'm going to quote-unquote freeze to death. I would rather see subtle things. Character's breath. If it's snowing, obviously, it's going to be cold. If I'm just aware that the same rules apply in a game than in the real world, I'm just going to put something warm on. It's just what you do. In which case, it becomes something that immerses you without becoming a system that annoys you or brings you out of that immersion by throwing a menu in your face or a progress bar on the side of the screen or chucking numbers at you. You know, you're playing something like Borderlands. If you have the damage numbers turned on, you're not immersed, really. You're having fun. It's fun watching the numbers show up over the target's heads get bigger and bigger, but it's meaningless. You know, I usually turn that shit off. If they fall down faster than they did before, and it seems less difficult, then I know I'm getting better at something. I can hide that system. So yeah. What do I want on the next gen, I guess, is the question I've been asking this whole episode. I want the magic back, goddammit. And get your corporate shit out of my face. Just make a good product, and I will give you my money so that you can keep your corporation running. Thank you, Mr. Big Corporation, for having the money to do amazing things. Just please get away from the business model of doing the least amount you possibly can to try and suck the most out of money you can out of everyone. Everyone's sick of it. You know, EA is one of the worst, and they're being called out for it, and it's finally starting to hit their stock prices, and maybe they're listening. They did bring out that Star Wars single-player game that was actually pretty decent, you know, instead of another multiplayer fucking battle royale cash grab loot box bullshit shit show. Let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens. I'm gonna stop talking now and go shoot whatever that is so it stops making noise. Have a good one. Don't stop thinking. Be excellent to one another.